First up will be Alana Petty from Discovery Education. Alana. She's going to talk to us a case study, how we're using data for the good of our customers. Alana fell in love with the field of consumer insights during her time at UNC Chapel Hill studying marketing and cognitive science. She's passionate about using data to create products, experiences that not only meet the needs of their end users, but also excite and delight those users along the way. Thank you.
Awesome. So as she just mentioned, data is an area that I'm very interested in and something that I get to use a lot in my day-to-day job. So I'm going to spend the next 10 or so minutes with you guys telling a little bit about a case study that demonstrates how we're using data for the good of our customer at Discovery. So before we jump in, I'm going to grab the clicker. A little bit of background on who we are at Discovery and what our product actually is. So if you're not familiar with education technology, essentially the goal is to help make learning more engaging for students and to help make teaching easier for a teacher. So that's what we are at Discovery. We're a suite of tons and tons of different resources, everything ranging from a full-blown lesson that aligns with a state standard all the way down to short, engaging shark videos that a science teacher could use to make her class more fun. And so with that, we have over 200,000 different resources within our platform that a teacher can choose from. So massive amount of content there. And so what I do at Discovery is I'm a product manager, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with product management. We probably have some product managers in the room, but it is a relatively new field. So for anyone who's not familiar, I'll give a little bit of background on what we do. So product management sits really between three distinct roles at a company. The first is UX, or user experience. So with that, we work really closely with our end users, our customers, to understand how they're using our product, what's working for them, what's not working for them, so that we can take all that good information and make our product better. And so that takes me to the second piece, which is the tech team. So we work very, very closely with our engineers and our technical folks to actually develop the product itself and make it better for those customers. And then the third piece is we're also on the business team. So while customer is definitely paramount, at the end of the day, we all know we're here to make money. And so we work with the business team to make sure that we're driving the bottom line as well. And so what my team has been focused on for the last year or so, our objective has really been to make it easier for a teacher who's in our Discovery Education platform, make it easier for him or her to find the right resource for them. So you might think that sounds pretty simple. You know, a teacher probably knows what they're looking for. They can probably just find it. But as I mentioned, we have literally hundreds of thousands of different resources to choose from. So that can be pretty overwhelming for a teacher when they're going to find maybe an activity about photosynthesis for their third grade class. They don't have all day to sort through hundreds and thousands of different things. So our team set off to make that discovery process a little bit easier for the teacher and see if we could identify any ways to make our product better. And so where we started on our journey, we started by looking at our search functionality. So not surprisingly, search is by far the #1 way that teachers discover content in our platform. We get a ton of search volume, over 700,000 different search sessions per month, just from teachers alone. So not even looking at students or administrators, just teachers are searching in our platform that frequently. So we started digging into the data to understand what that search process looked like for our teachers and see if we could identify any problem areas or gaps in that process that we could improve. And so as we started digging into that data, we looked at everything from how frequently a teacher was searching. We looked at what filters she might use in search to narrow down her discovery process. We looked at how many resources a teacher would view before they actually found one to assign or share with their class. But one thing stood out to us above everything else that we looked at, and that was when we looked at what teachers were actually searching for, it shocked us to find that blanks were actually the top search term. So not a search term at all, but teachers were going to our search bar, typing in nothing, hitting enter, and then getting returned with literally every single result in our platform, which, as I mentioned, is a lot. And so this confused us a little bit, right? We're thinking, we're hearing back from many customers that it can be overwhelming. They don't have a lot of time to sift through. So we're trying to understand, how do these two things make sense together? Why are so many teachers every single month after month, going and blank searching and just looking at every single thing that we have in our platform? And so we knew that we had to get a little bit deeper to understand what was going on here. So we started actually talking to our teachers and doing qualitative research. So we have an awesome research team at Discovery who we worked with to do everything from focus groups to in-depth user interviews. We did research studies where we would have a teacher go through and search in the platform and talk us through what they were thinking, what their thought process was along the way. And what we realized during that process is that there were actually two distinct reasons that a teacher might be searching in Discovery. The first was what we were familiar with. So the teacher who has something in mind, they know what they're looking for, they would go to Discovery, type it in, search down, find what they wanted, great. But then the second use case that we really hadn't considered was that many teachers were coming to the platform and they didn't have a specific thing in mind that they were looking for, either because they just wanted some inspiration, they weren't sure what they should be looking for, or even they weren't exactly sure what they had access to in Discovery. And so when we realized that, we noticed that we weren't really giving this exploratory browser user a good place to do that in our site. And so they were kind of finding a funky backdoor way to see everything and browse. And so as we thought about how we could make that better for that customer, that sort of browser, we started thinking about a lot of our favorite different media companies that all of us know and love. So think about Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. All these different platforms have a space for users to discover or explore. And that space has this sort of feel of a limitless possibility. You can scroll and scroll. You can see a wide variety of different types of assets or resources. But it also has this additional layer of personalization. So they know that you want to see lots of content, but they also know that you want it to be tailored to what they know about you, right? And so as we were thinking about how we might do something similar for our teachers to make their life a little bit easier, we realized that we were already collecting a lot of data from them during the onboarding process that we could use. So when a teacher first gets Discovery Education, we ask them a lot of questions like, what grade are you teaching? What subject are you teaching? What topics or areas of interest do you have? And so we sort of had this light bulb moment that we could put those things together and create this very personalized experience for our teachers to explore. And so that's exactly what we did. We released our Explore page for our teachers at the start of this past school year, so only about 6 weeks ago. But so far, the results have been incredible. We've seen that engagement on this Explore page has been up 50% compared to other portions of the site, like search. So teachers are really, really resonating with that idea of personalized content, but a variety of content at the same time. And so that's great for us because engagement was one of our KPIs. You know, we're doing what we wanted to do, which is great. But it's also awesome because for a teacher, that means that they're finding what they need much quicker and in a much more enjoyable way, which we love to see. So, as promised, a couple of takeaways maybe that you can think about, maybe apply to your own business. The first is if you're stuck on what problem to solve, if you're not really sure where to start in your product, I would encourage you to look at how people are hacking your product or maybe how they're using it incorrectly. So for us, we weren't really expecting teachers to do this empty search function. But when we realized how many teachers were doing it, we knew that there was a problem to solve, right? So if you have people in your product or customers that you work with who are finding a way to get to something that you weren't intending for them to do, great opportunity for you to step in and make that process a little bit easier for them. The second is, don't be afraid to ask why questions. Talk to your customers. Data is obviously huge, but a lot of times we can assume that we know what our customers are doing by looking at the data, but sometimes that's just not the case. So for us, when we saw how many people were empty searching, we could have made a ton of different assumptions about why they were doing that, but it wasn't until we actually talked to our teachers that we understood what they were going through and what problems they were facing, and then we could really solve that problem for them. And then lastly, get creative with what's available to you. So if you want to start something new, create something new in your product or in your business, don't jump straight to reinventing the wheel. For us, we considered, coming up with a new algorithm, a new way to personalize our content. But when we took a look at what we were already collecting from our customers, we had a ton of valuable stuff that we could repurpose, and it enabled us to get this Explore experience out a lot quicker and into the hands of teachers, which is great. So I will just leave you with, if any of this sounds interesting to you, if the field of product management sounds interesting, we'd love to talk to you afterward. We do have a few openings at Discovery. And even if you're just interested in the product, we have a lot of awesome demos going on at the sponsor fair, where we will show you guys some cool stuff that we're doing with augmented reality in the classrooms. So thanks for listening. I'll give this to you.